One of the biggest mistakes I see Section 8 landlords make is that they never raise the rent. They literally leave money on the table year after year, but at the same time, taxes go up, insurance goes up, and quietly the cash flow starts to shrink. But here's the truth: if you're providing quality housing, which you should be requesting rent increases annually. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to do it and how to do it in a smart, strategic way, right? So let's talk. First, let's define the playing field, right? Section 8 is officially called the Housing Choice Voucher Program, and every local housing authority sets their fair market rent based on property size and zip code. These are public numbers, right? And they often go up annually to reflect the local rental market, right? So, but here's the catch: they don't automatically increase your rent. You have to request it. And if you don't, the housing authority will keep paying the old rate, even if the market prices have jumped up by $100, $200, or even in many cases more than that. So, how do you actually request a rent increase the right way? The first step is to know the timing because most housing authorities require at least 60 days notice before the tenant's lease renews, right? So some even ask for 90 days. So you have to really check with your local housing authority to make sure you're compliant, right? So mark your calendar well ahead of that date to make sure that you start the process before that actual renewal date. The second step is to check the current fair market rents. So again, this comes out annually. Sometimes they update it multiple times out the year, but it will definitely come out at the top of the year. So you definitely want to check the current fair market rent, and you simply would just put your county. So if I live in Gwinnett County, so you will put Gwinnett County fair market rent, and from there you'll be able to click a drop down, select the number of bedrooms, select the zip code, and then it'll tell you what the fair market rate is. You can find this also on just your local housing authority website, or just use HUD's fair market rent tool. That can help you compare as well. Step three is reaching out to the tenant to really, just let them know, hey, I intend to increase the rent and this is why, right? Most tenants are not going to put up a fight because, again, if you're in my program, you're already treating them with respect and care and you're taking care of the property. But essentially, it's just to inform them that rent is going up to account for, increased taxes, insurance, maintenance, etc. Right? So I can keep the place looking great for you. I'm requesting a rent increase because you will need them to sign a document that you would submit on the behalf of the relationship. So it's a form that you sign and it's a form that they sign. And once you're in mutual agreement, you submit it to the housing authority and they take it from there, right? So that's something that's very important. Step four is to actually submit the formal request. Most housing authorities have a rent increase form. If they don't, you send an email with the subject line saying, hey, rent adjustment request. It all depends on your local housing authority. So it might be a combination of two. The key is to be professional, right? What I do is once I get an approved anything, right? Once something goes through that's approved, I simply just copy what I've done that's worked. Even my verbiage. Hey, this is a rent increase request to be effective this date. If that has gone through without a hitch before, I don't try to reinvent the wheel. I simply use that same line and just update the effective date. Like these folks are heads down, compliance driven people. You don't want to deviate from something that's worked. Trust me, right? And what you want to do is you submit it, you respect the time frame, and you allow it to happen. You don't reach out beforehand unless you have a very, very, very comfortable relationship with that housing authority. Just let it ride out. If they say 30 days, reach out on the 31st day. Do not bother the process. They will circle your name and say, okay, so this is old buddy here who's impatient. So just let it ride, right? So let's talk strategy, right? I raise my rents every year, right? And it's not to be unfair. It's just truly that there are increased costs, but I'm also a cash flow investor and I need to maximize my investments as much as possible, and that's what you should be doing too. You want to keep up with expenses and market movement for sure. So even a monthly increase of $50 can go a long way. That's $600 per year. But in most cases for me, I'm getting at least probably 5% on my rent every year with Section 8, right? The key here is to be fair, right? And that's what the fair market rent is. If you fall within the fair market rent and it can be justified, you should get approved. That shouldn't be a problem. You just need to be consistent and you need to be reasonable. Some landlords hesitate because they think, I go through all this paperwork and what if the housing authority says no? And that really is a flawed view, right? Because if you actually followed the process and you reviewed the fair market rent that's published by the local housing authority, then you shouldn't feel that way. You should feel like, hey, I got a good chance for it to happen. Now, has every rent increase been approved for me? Not the exact dollar amount. There are some times where they'll say, hey, I know you requested 1,500, but the most we can do is 1,480. You see what I'm saying? Like those things can happen. But I've never, ever been in a situation where they said, hey, your last year's rent is still good enough for this year. I've never experienced that, and I've done this so many times, right? So never let that be a hurdle for you at all. And also, I'll say, unlike the initial onboarding process where it's a nice thick stack of paperwork, the rent increase form is typically one page. It's typically one page. One page, you can do in-person signatures, you can do some e-signatures and send it off via email and you just wait. So it's really no reason from a paperwork or an administrative setback for you to say, hey, I don't want to request this rent, right? If they counter, it's usually close. And if they deny, you still have the option to renew at the current rate. But again, I've never experienced a denial. Either way, you're in control. Now, if you want to take it up another level, right, go to my website, mosesthementor.com, and I'll walk you through my full strategy on how to track fair market rent changes, submit requests on time, and keep my rent competitive without losing tenants. It's called my 5-step system to consistent cash flow. And this is how I protect my margins every year. And I teach others how to do the same. It's not about greed. It's about running a smart business. That's exactly what we're doing. So if you're a current investor and you haven't raised your rent in a year or even longer than that, number one, shame on you. But this is your sign, and you don't need to wait until your cash flow is dried up. So be proactive, use this system, and make sure that your income reflects the value that you provide to your tenants, right? If this helps you take control of your rental income, please like, share, and subscribe. I really appreciate it. So stay committed and stay profitable, and I'll see everyone on the next video. Peace.